please help a new channel, like and subscribe. Beyond Antarctica. The icy winds of the Antarctic howled outside the reinforced glass of the bridge, but inside, B.N.Rocker stood in silent contemplation, insulated from the cold Antarctic winds he knew too well, the multi-million-dollar control panel blinking before him, mirroring the steady beat of his heart. For a man who had conquered corporate boardrooms and the stock market with the same ease one might read the morning paper, the earth had shrunk beneath his ambition. Now, the untouched vistas of Antarctica beckoned, not for profit, but for the promise of something beyond the ordinary, something monumental. B.N.'s vessel, the Celeb Mariner, was a masterpiece of modern engineering, equipped with the latest in sub-zero navigation systems, deep-sea robotic explorers, and a mini-sub capable of withstanding the pressures of the deepest ocean trenches. It was a floating scientific masterpiece, funded by not just his wealth, but also by contributions from two other titans of industry, each as eager as Bick to etch their names into history. As Bick gazed out at the vast expanse of white and blue, lost in his thoughts about what secrets lay hidden beneath the ice, a sharp bleep from the radar console shattered the silence. His second-in-command, John Dieters, approached with a furrowed brow. "We've got company, and they're hailing us," he announced, nodding towards the approaching silhouette of a U.S. Navy destroyer cutting through the icy waters with authority. The radio sounded. A stern voice boomed through the speaker. "Unidentified vessel. This is the USS O'Brien. You are entering a restricted area under the Antarctic Treaty System. Reverse your course." Bick's heart raced. Stepping up to the microphone, he replied with calmness to his voice, "USS O'Brien, this is the Celeb Mariner. We are engaged in non-invasive environmental research, specifically monitoring the migration patterns and health of local marine life. We intend no breach of treaty." There was a pause, long enough for Bick to exchange a knowing look with John, before the reply came. "Hold your position. We are sending a boarding party to verify your activities." As the Navy vessel loomed closer, its gray hull a stark contrast against the white backdrop, Bick turned to the crew. "Prepare to welcome our guests," he said. "Let's show them that we have nothing to hide." But as the Celeb Mariner idled in the shadow of the destroyer, Bick clutched a satellite photo hidden in his pocket, a photo showing a thermal anomaly beneath the ice, miles from their current location. It was the real reason they were here, and no treaty or naval power was going to keep him from it. The Navy boarding party had conducted their search thoroughly, but found nothing amiss. Bick had ensured that all their equipment appeared as benign as possible, and their research activities, while slightly fabricated, were plausible enough not to raise suspicions. Once the destroyer was nothing more than a speck on the horizon, Bick convened a meeting in the ship's main conference room. The room buzzed with curiosity. As the crew settled around the sleek oval table, John Dieters stood at Bick's side, a steadfast presence whose loyalty and experience had been proven over countless voyages. "Ladies and gentlemen," Bick began, "thank you for your cooperation today. The official story, as you know, is that we are here to study marine life. However, it's time you knew the full extent of our mission." He paused for effect, allowing his gaze to sweep across the room. Then, from his pocket, he produced a satellite image, displaying it on the large screen behind him with a flick of his wrist. The image showed a thermal anomaly, a massive river of warm water snaking its way through the Antarctic ice. "This," he pointed, "is not just a geological curiosity. It suggests significant volcanic activity under the ice, creating a river that could extend for hundreds of miles. This is where our true mission begins." Murmurs filled the room as the crew leaned in, captivated by the image and Bick's words. "We are not here just as researchers or environmentalists," Bick continued. "We are explorers on the edge of a great discovery. There is a theory, my theory, that what lies beyond this ice could change everything we know about our planet." John Dieters stepped forward. "We all signed on for a different job, but this new job pays 10 times more with a bonus if business is better than usual, and we all know, Mr. Rocker, it's never just business as usual. I expect to retire on this, boys. We're here to push boundaries. but I want everyone to understand that safety is our priority. We will proceed with caution." Bick nodded, his expression serious. "We'll keep within legal boundaries until we reach the river. I'll share more about my theory as we get closer, but for now, know this. What we're about to discover could be monumental. If it meets my expectations, you all will be set for life. You have my word. As for now," Bick concluded, "settle in. We make for the river at first light. Rest up. We'll need all hands sharp and ready." With a final affirmative nod from John, the meeting adjourned. The crew dispersed. As the Celeb Mariner steered towards the coordinates Bick had marked, the Antarctic night seemed a little less dark, lit by the burning curiosity of those daring enough to challenge the mysteries it held. As night enveloped the Antarctic expanse, the Celeb Mariner glided silently through the icy waters, the only sounds being the gentle hum of the engine and the occasional crack of ice against the hull of the ship. Under the veil of darkness, guided by the faint glow of the ship's running lights, they approached the coordinates of the hidden river. Bick orders full speed. "Make a dash for it now. The USS O'Brien is miles away." As the ship entered the river, a subtle vibration began to resonate through the hull. It seemed to pop and crack with sounds from the warmer water, heating it up. This is anything but natural, something like this occurring in these frozen latitudes. Steering blindly into the heart of Antarctica, trusting in Bick's leadership. His confidence was infectious, his presence a reassurance that they were on the brink of discovery. However, as they ventured deeper, the ship's compasses began to spin erratically. The digital displays flickered between headings, unable to find any sense of magnetic north. "Magnetic anomalies," John Dieters announced over the ship's intercom. "Did not expect this. Stay sharp. All forms of navigation and radar is out," he continued. The further they traveled, the more pronounced the anomalies became. Radios returned only static, and satellite signals failed to penetrate the dense magnetic field that enveloped them. In the dim light of the bridge, Bick turned to his crew. "We knew this wouldn't be easy," he said. "We're on our own for now, cut off from the world. It's just us and whatever lies ahead. Let's keep our wits about us." The crew nodded, rallying behind his words. They were well prepared, their vessel stocked with enough supplies for extensive isolation, and each member trained for emergency procedures. Yet the silence that fell upon losing contact with the outside world was chilling. As they ventured further, the river widened, the water flowing strong and warm. The heat from the river melted the surrounding ice, creating a cavernous channel that revealed layers of ice that had not seen the sun for millennia. Stalactites of ice hung from the cavern ceiling, glowing eerily in the light of the ship's lamps. As the river turned into a cave of ice, suddenly the ship lurched as the ship hit a falling piece of ice, a reminder of the unseen landscape that could abruptly end their travels. "All hands, stay alert. We don't know what the river looks like here," John broadcasted, his eyes scanning the river. As the Celeb Mariner emerged from the shadowy confines of the cave, the landscape transformed dramatically. The vessel sailed into a vast expanse of ocean. The surface rippled gently under the gray, overcast sky that made any form of celestial navigation impossible. The sheer scale of this ocean, shocking, behind them a towering wall of ice, filled the crew with a profound sense of awe. The atmosphere aboard the ship grew tense as the reality of their situation set in. They were now navigating a body of water not documented on any map, isolated from the world by layers of ice and a blanket of magnetic anomalies that rendered their communications and navigational equipment useless. "Some of us think it might be time to consider turning back, sir," one of the crew members voiced in the mess hall. Murmurs of agreement filled the air as faces marked by the strain of the unknown looked around for support. Bick, sensing the shift in morale, knew he had to act swiftly. Standing at the head of the room, he let his gaze meet those of his crew, telling each member they're valuable, their concerns valid. "I understand your fears," he began, his voice compelling. "But we stand at the edge of one of the greatest discoveries of our time. What lies ahead could redefine our understanding of our own planet. Yes, it's unknown. Yes, it's daunting. But that's exactly why we must push forward. Seeing hesitancy linger in the eyes of his crew, Bick made a decision. To show my commitment to both our safety and our goal, I'm doubling the bonus for every crew member. We're in this together. Your hard work will be rewarded well beyond your contract. The room fell silent as the crew processed Bick's offer. The promise of additional compensation was tempting, but more than that, it was Bick's unwavering confidence that reassured them. They were here because they were explorers at heart, driven by the same desire that had led humans to cross oceans and scale peaks. With a renewed sense of purpose, the crew voted once more. This time, the majority chose to continue due to Bick's speech, and admittedly, the doubled bonus did not hurt. With the decision made, the Celeb Mariner resumed its journey across the mysterious sea. The ship sailed on, cutting through the still waters. As they moved forward, the sense of isolation deepened, but so did the camaraderie among the crew. They were no longer just a team. They were pioneers on a shared voyage of discovery, each person crucial to the success of a mission larger than themselves. Under the dim light of the navigation room, B.N.Rocker leaned forward across the table, his eyes intense. John Dieters stood opposite him, sipping his Irish coffee. The ship was steady, but the conversation they were about to dive into was anything but. "Bick, what's on your mind?" John asked, noticing the serious look on Bick's face. Bick paused, collecting his thoughts. "John, what we've been taught about the Earth, its structure, its boundaries. What if only part of the story is true? And what if it's a distraction from a greater truth?" John raised an eyebrow. "You're talking about the flat Earth theories now? You know I am a believer in flat Earth." Bick shook his head slightly. "Not exactly. But hear me out, friend. The flat Earth is a distraction, part of a false dichotomy meant to obscure deeper truths. Think of it as Theory A and Theory B. The accepted scientific model is A, the flat Earth is B. What I'm proposing is Theory C, a concept so overlooked or hidden, it's the theory. They do not want you to see. The powers that be love to have you argue it's A as the other argues it's B. That way they can control the narrative of the conversation or debate, hoping you never see the truth." Bick with a smirk on his face. John crossed his arms, leaning back against the wall. "And what is Theory C, Bick?" "It's this," Bick said, spreading his arms wide, encompassing the vast unknown sea around them. "Consider this hidden ocean, John. Why is it not on any map? Why does it exist beneath miles of ice, untouched, unexplored?" Bick continues, "A handful of earth, or dirt, is more dense than a handful of soil from any other planet in our solar system. Our world is more dense than the other worlds," is the explanation they give. I say the world is larger than what they claim, and the known Earth is nothing more than the north pole of a planet wobbling facing the sun. And for things to appear so flat, I would say the Earth is about 70% larger or more, with many more hidden continents and islands. Smirking, he then says, extraterrestrial, or extra land, if you will. John considered Bick's words, the weight of their implications sinking in. "You're suggesting that there's a deliberate concealment of certain geographical features? For what purpose?" "Well, for one, most do not realize we are coming out of an ice age, the tail end of one, meaning we are still in an ice age. I think there is civilization here, on this side, that does not want to be discovered. They have 70% of the planet to themselves, probably using the known world as a slave force, is my guess. Every country is in debt. I can guess on that subject all night, but it would only be guesses. The powers that be are far more sinister than I had thought." Bick adds, "My theory is that's why they're pushing climate change so bad. They do not want the ice wall to melt, exposing their lies to the world. The ice age is not over. Scientists say that we're currently in an interglacial period, a stretch of time with a milder climate between. Glacial periods of much colder climates, all falling within an ice age. To control the narrative of what humanity strives for, if you believe you know all there is to know, you stop looking. You stop discovering. But if people knew there were places like this," Bick gestured around. "Imagine the renewed interest in exploration, in science, in understanding our planet. No more shortages, for a long time. Like I said, why is above my pay grade, but here we are. Facts. face us. John nodded slowly. It's a massive claim, Bick. It would mean that every space agency, government, and scientific institution is involved in this deception. They all get their money from the same place. They all have a figurehead, one person, the one that controls the purse, controls the government, controls what laws are made, controls the flow of mankind. It's really that simple. It's the need to know world we live in. You want your job right. I did not need to inform you of any of this. Think of it that way, my friend. Not necessarily everyone needs to know, Bick replied. Just enough key players. The rest follow what textbooks and official reports tell them. So, what's our next move? John asked, the role of devil's advocate falling away, replaced by his innate role as the explorer's comrade. We gather evidence, we document everything, this ocean, its extent, its biodiversity, anything that proves it exists. We bring undeniable proof back with us. John smiled, a spark of adventurer's fire lighting in his eyes. Then let's make sure our cameras are working. If there's a truth to be found here, Bick, we'll find it. The Celeb Mariner had been slicing through the dark waters of the mysterious sea when the tranquility was shattered by a colossal upheaval. A gargantuan creature breached the surface with a deafening roar and a display of primal power. Water cascaded in monumental waves as the creature's massive body slammed back into the sea, sending the waves at the ship, rocking it violently. Captain John Dieters shouted orders above the chaos. "Brace for impact, all hands, secure yourselves." The crew scrambled, gripping whatever they could as the ship rocked violently from the aftershocks of the creature's movements. B.N.Rocker, his heart pounding in his chest, watched in horror as the creature circled back, its enormous eyes reflecting a cold, primordial intelligence. It was clear that the creature saw the vessel as either a threat or prey. Bick says, "No way. Look at that thing. It can't be. He paused for a moment. "It resembles an ancient mosasaur." John laughs. "At this point it doesn't matter. It wants us." Full speed, boy, yelling up to the bridge. "Shit, we're in trouble. It's gaining on us." "We can't outrun it," John yelled over the commotion. His voice was nearly drowned out by the sound of another mighty surge of water as the creature raised out of the water prepared to strike. With a quick decision, the only option left to avoid a catastrophic confrontation, the helmsman steered the Celeb Mariner towards what appeared to be a shoreline, obscured partially by a thick mist. The engines roared to their limits, the ship lurching to the side, as if understanding the urgency of escape. "Land, sir," the helmsman shouted. As they neared the shore, the looming silhouette of land became visible through the fog. The sound of the seabed scraping the hull was like the screech of metal on stone, a harrowing sound that foretold the damage they were about to sustain. "Hold on!" John bellowed as the bow headed towards what looked like a sandy embankment. The impact was imminent. With a deafening crash, the Celeb Mariner hit a coral reef hidden just below the water's surface. The jolt threw several crew members off their feet, and a horrific tearing sound signaled the ripping of metal as the hull was breached. The ship shuddered, groaning under the stress, before it was thrust forward by the momentum, sliding up onto the sandy beach. The crew, shaken but alive, Bick, alongside John, quickly assessed the situation. Outside, the ship lay awkwardly tilted on its side. The beaching, while violent and destructive, had indeed saved them from the depths and the creature lurking within. As the initial shock wore off, the crew gathered on the slanted deck, sliding down to the beach, revealing a coastline with a dark, thick wilderness hugging the beach line. In the distance, the creature's silhouette disappeared beneath the waves, leaving behind a turbulent wake, the event terrifying. "Damage control, Todd. Assess the breach. Kim do medical. Check for injuries," John commanded. The crew had barely begun to collect themselves when a rustling noise emerged from the dense thicket of gnarled trees and underbrush lining the shore. The world seemed to hold its breath. The only sounds are the soft hiss of steam rising from the damaged ship and the cries of seabirds as they launch themselves upward, scattering in anticipation of what's to come. Silence stretched for a heartbeat longer before it was shattered by another sound, something far more ominous. It was a low, guttural clicking that seemed to echo from the shadows just beyond the tree line. John Dieters, his face pale under the strain, back on the boat. Now, his voice, usually calm and commanding, carried a sharp edge of urgent fear. No sooner had the words left his mouth than two figures burst from the bordering wilderness with terrifying speed, their scales a mottled green that shimmered with a hint of something unworldly, their eyes glowing with a predatory intelligence. Each movement was precise and fluid, a horrifying grace that only underscored their deadly intent. They were raptors. The crew scrambled backwards, stumbling over each other in their rush to get back in the boat. Clawing their way up the deck, they retreated to the relative safety of the ship, peering through the door just as the creatures closed the distance. All except Joe Porter. The young helmsman had frozen momentarily, his gaze locked on the approaching raptors, terror locking his legs in place. That fatal hesitation cost him dearly. One of the raptors leaped, its body coiling like a spring unleashed, and pounced with its claws extended. Joe screamed, a short, sharp sound cut off as the raptor's jaws clamped down. The crew watched helplessly from the safety of the door jamb as the raptor shook Joe violently, his cries silenced almost instantly as the creature's powerful jaws and sharp teeth did their grim work. The second raptor joined in, and within moments there was nothing left but a blood stain on the deck and the haunting facts of the brutal laws of this new, wild land. John slammed the heavy metal door shut, his hands trembling as he secured the locks. The heavy thud of the door closing seemed to echo the reality of their situation. As they gathered their thoughts, the reality of their situation sank in deeper, stranded on an uncharted shore, with a damaged ship and deadly predators just beyond the walls. The challenges they faced were immense. The world they thought they knew had just expanded into something far more vast and terrifying. The beaching of the Celeb Mariner wasn't just an escape from the depths of the sea creature. It was a descent into a new kind of abyss, one filled with dangers that tested the very limits of their courage and resolve. B.N.Rocker stared into the creeping shadows, a grim realization dawning upon him. Their journey into the unknown had only just begun, and somewhere out there, in the vast, uncharted wilderness, the secrets they sought were waiting, silent, ancient, and unfathomably dangerous. This is not goodbye, nor the end. Until the story continues, my friends. B.N.Rocker.